So welcome everyone. I'm very glad that you could join us today. My name is Paula Newcomb and I'm the Northeast Regional Coordinator of the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I will be the host and question moderator for today's webinar, 30 Ways to Make Your Small Library Extraordinary, presented by Jamie Maciek, Education Consultant at Wisconsin Valley Library Service based in Wausau, Wisconsin. Before we start, I think we have people from all over the country. So if you could just, I know some people have already done it, but just type in where you're from, like maybe just the town and the state, just to see where everybody's at. And I'll go ahead and talk about a few items before we start the webinar. If you are having sound issues during this webinar, please see the sound issues box just below the chat box. If there is a global sound issue, we will announce it in the chat box. If you are unable to resolve the sound issue you're experiencing, we are recording the webinar and you can watch it offline after it has ended. Again, if there is a global sound issue, we will make an announcement in this chat box. If you have a question, just type it in the chat box on the upper left side of the screen. Jamie has certain spots in her presentation where she'll be soliciting questions, and there should also be time near the end for questions. Today's session is worth 1 LEU, and your certificate will be available for download at the end of the webinar. If you are watching an archived recording of this presentation, information on how to obtain your LEU is in the video's description in YouTube. Also, today's webinar will be recorded and archived, and after the webinar has been transcribed, it will be available on the Indiana State Library's archived webinars page. For weekly updates on upcoming trainings and to learn more about what's happening in libraries across the state, please subscribe to the Indiana State Library's e-newsletter, The Wednesday Word, and check our continuing education website for other professional development opportunities. Okay, let's get started. I'm now happy to turn the presentation over to Jamie.
Thank you so much, Paula, and thank you everybody for signing in this morning. I know it's a busy time of year with the holidays right around the corner. I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't know where 2018 went, and I have a feeling 2019 is going to be the same. So let's go ahead and get started. As Paula mentioned, I'm Jamie Maciek, and I am with the Wisconsin Valley Library Service. We're based in Wausau, Wisconsin. I work out of my office in Green Bay. Go Pack Go. And this is what we'll be covering today on our way to 30 ways to extraordinary. These are things that all of us can do. I want to provide you with some tools, some information, maybe just some reminders of things you're already doing very well. I also hope at this session that we maybe laugh a little bit. I'm sorry that I can't see you or hear you, but I will assume that you are laughing. I've been a public library consultant in Wisconsin for over 12 years, and I've consulted over 50 small and rural libraries. And in my current role at Wisconsin Valley, I also serve many small and rural public libraries. We serve 36 public libraries total. So what I'd like you to do right now, right off the bat, is just think, or you can even type it in your chat box if you'd like for all of us to see, what does it mean to have an extraordinary library? What does that mean to you? And if you're thinking about it, maybe jot it down if you want to, just to yourself. So I'm seeing outstanding patron service from Margaret. That's awesome. I would definitely agree with that. So I'm going to give you a few more seconds just to think about that. Effectively meeting patron needs. Absolutely. We're going to come back to this. So keep this written down or keep this in the back of your mind. So on the screen right now, we have Carrie, Mary, and Sherry. And Carrie, Mary, and Sherry are all library directors. Over on the left, we have Carrie. And Carrie's library received a grant for $10,000 this past year. And with that money, they built a makerspace. That was something that their community had talked about wanting and needing. So that's what they did. Mary, pictured in the middle, she advocated to her city for her staff this year to receive their first raise in over 5 years. You know, they talked about budget freezes, and she thought, no, Our staff hasn't had a budget raise. It hasn't had staff raises in 5 years. We're going to go do this. And then there's Sherry over on the right-hand side. Sherry's library was on the brink of closing its doors 2 years ago, but the community came together to fight for the library to remain open. And it's still open today and is even having an expansion. So would you say that Carrie, Mary, and Sherry's successes are different? I would think we'd all agree yes, right? All different successes. Are they in their own way also extraordinary? Yes. Why? Because they defined it for themselves. Those ladies all accomplished different things at their libraries, and they were all extraordinary because they decided what it meant and they defined it. So what does extraordinary mean to you? That's something that you are going to decide. Your board, your staff, your community, it's going to look different for all of you. And I don't say that to mean to sound like I'm copping out and not giving you a definition, but I can't decide that for you because you are all unique with all different needs. Your libraries are unique, your communities are unique. So you need to decide what that means. That's the first thing that we need to do when we're on our way to having an extraordinary library. O.J. Briggins was a linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens. And in 2007, at age 37, he was diagnosed with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. And he thought in a couple years he would be dead. O.J. is now 48 years old, and he is an advisor to player development for the Baltimore Ravens. So clearly, in O.J.'s years with ALS, he has had to overcome challenges. We also have challenges in libraries, right? And what are some things that we can do to overcome those? So let's talk about overcoming some of those challenges. As a small library, or for any library, it's very easy to get into the habit of saying, if only we had this, if only we had that. What are some of those blanks? And if you feel like typing that in the chat box, please go ahead. What are some of those things that we find ourselves saying? If only we had more staff, right, April? Barbara says storage space, money, more space. I'm seeing another more space, more funding, more money. If only we had more space everywhere. So that more children at story time, less politics. If only we had. We're constantly saying those things, right? But let me ask you this: how likely are those things going to happen? Realistically. So what we need to be careful about doing is not getting into the routine of saying those things, because at some point we might use those things as an excuse or even a barrier. Instead, we should be celebrating the things we do have. What do you have? What can you do? Maybe your library is a dementia-friendly library. Maybe you have awesome community members who make you custom-made beanbag tosses for your children's area. Especially with small and public libraries, you have the ability to really be unique and to celebrate those unique things. So what makes your small library unique? What are you proud of? Celebrate those things. And don't think they're small things. They're big things. Don't take those things lightly. So as a small library, again, well, with any library, we're limited in resources, right? So we have to be realistic. Clearly, a small library with 10 staff can't do all the things that Boston Public Library does, or the Brooklyn Public Library does, or a library in San Francisco. Does it pay to have a library Twitter page where we have 30 followers and we post to it once a month? Does it pay to have a library blog that we only post to a couple times a year? Is it worth it to have a Saturday book club for the same 3 people? Those are the things we have to start asking ourselves and really thinking about as resources and staff and space get smaller. So instead of doing all the things, and in my consulting with libraries over the years, especially small ones, I've found they've wanted to do everything. They see something being done at a neighborhood library or a library 10 miles up the road, and they want to do that, even though they don't have the staff, they might not have the space, and they might not even have the funding. So we need to do the things that we do very well. Do them very well and make them count. So at the library, we have different players. We have our A, our B, our C, and our D. Your A players are your top players. Those are very few. They are your most extraordinary employees. You know, they are your top employees. Then you have your D, right? And the D people are probably on the fringe of being let go or maybe even resigning on their own. Then you have your B and C. Most of your employees are probably B players. They are the employees who do things very well. They need some guidance from time to time. They work hard. They are team players. So that is likely where a majority of us fall into, is that B category. But then we have our C. We have our C players. And the C player, or that C employee, is the employee who does just enough. Maybe we'll swap a shift with someone when it's convenient. Maybe we'll do a little bit more than is expected. Some days has an okay attitude, some days not so good. So here's the thing with that C player. For every C player we have in our library, there are probably 10 B players that want that job and who could do that job better. And as a small library, you need mostly B players. It's one thing to have 4 to 5 C players with a staff of 50. With a staff of 10, that can lead to problems. And you are not going to improve it as an organization or as a library with several C players. Because if the C player doesn't get better, the organization is not going to get better. And with limited staff, with limited resources, with limited money, we need people doing the very best they can all the time. So we need to make a point as best as we can to hire and train and retain our B players, our B and our A players. If we are not nice to one another, how can we have a positive work culture? How can we have an extraordinary library? I think this is huge. If there is tension among us, among our staff, how does that reflect on our libraries? How does that reflect on our community? What kind of effect does it have on the people we serve? So what are the ways that we can create that positive work culture? James Carville, most of you probably know of him, political commentator, media personality. And we can only do extraordinary things, he says, by involving excellent people. So we choose where we work, right? We choose where we work. We don't necessarily choose who we work with. So you might like all your coworkers, you might not like all your coworkers, and you still need to treat everyone with kindness. You might not see eye to eye with all of them on a lot of things, but we still need to treat everyone like a professional and everybody with kindness. There's really no way of getting around that, especially in small libraries where we don't have large staffs. And again, I would argue that that goes for any workplace, even a larger library with a larger staff. So we don't choose. We don't choose this. And we still have to treat everybody with kindness. You don't have to like the person. You don't have to be BFFs with everybody you work with. And in fact, I encourage people to have friends, to have lives outside of the library. But you do need to treat everybody with kindness and everybody with respect. We also need to let the little things go. So on your screen right now is a reenactment of 2 things that were given as complaints to me in a former position, not in the library, in a different position. I'm sure some of you can relate to those things well, some of these things though. You know, not stacking the silverware correctly in the staff lounge. I actually had someone tell me that this person didn't like it when I left time on the microwave. I'm not kidding. And I'm sure none of us know we don't know what people like this at all, right? Someone said, oh my goodness, you've been here. Yes, yes, we all can relate to this, right? So when these things happened with me or happened at our workplace, I had to decide, do I get upset about this? Should I get upset about this? Or do I let this go? And as much as I wanted to bring it up or address it, I decided that I had to let it go because I had to pick my battles. In the grand scheme of things, these were not important things, and I had to let them go. So we also have to do the same thing, as best as we can. If somebody leaves a dirty cup in the kitchen sink, is it that hard to maybe just wash it for that person? Do we need to leave a nasty note or send an email mentioning that someone did this? Probably not. So we have to pick. I know it's really hard, but we have to pick our battles the best we can. And yes, this goes with parenting as well. You're right, Kim. We also should try to find something positive about those people who might annoy us. Remember, we're not going to be friends with everybody at work. If you are friends and get along with everyone you work with, that's awesome. Kudos to you. But I know that's not the case for a lot of us. So when we have those moments where someone gets mad at us for leaving, not doing the microwave correctly, or maybe we didn't shelve a book correctly on the shelf, or we didn't leave the mouse in the right spot on the reference desk. We have to try to think of something good about that person. There are positive things about everybody. Really, there really are. So when you're in those moments, think to yourself, what is something positive? What is something good about that person? And I guarantee that will help you fight those battles a little bit better. Number 10, this is something that I try to do right away. And I did it more when I worked in an office. And within the first 30 minutes, now we had a small office, and this might not be realistic for all of you, I would try to say hello to everybody within the first 30 minutes of the workday. So if it meant maybe making a detour on the way to the restroom or a slight detour from reheating my coffee, I would do that. And it was just a quick, hey, good morning, Jane. Good morning, Tom. How are you? Not having this big discussion, but just saying good morning and using their name. There's power when we hear our name, right? And I would do it when people would leave. If I walked out and was walking past somebody, good night. Good night, Steve. Have a great weekend, Jane. See you Monday. It's so simple, but it can make such a difference. And I do believe by doing these positive things, they will rub off on other people. Okay, so let's say that you come back from the weekend. Well, we all come back from the weekend, right? Mondays can be hard. And somebody asks us, what did you, so how was your weekend? Well, I went to this place called the Norski Nook. I had lefse. It was actually an omelet lefse. It was delicious. I've never had lefse before. And then I went ice skating, and then I did this. And then 30 minutes later on Monday morning, I go to the next person. I run into my next coworker, and they say, hey, how was your weekend? And I say, hey, I went to this place called Norski Nook. I had this omelet with lefse. It was delicious. It had hollandaise sauce on it. And then I went ice skating. Oh, and then I went to the bookstore and picked up a few books. 30 minutes later, somebody else asks me. Okay, so I think you're understanding the idea. A company that I know of talked about doing this long acronym that you're seeing on your screen. What did you do over the weekend? So this company, and it was a small office, they would gather their 8 people or their 10 people at 9 o'clock every Monday morning, and they would say what they did over the weekend. They would go around and they would have 10 minutes. I'm sorry, 1 minute. That would get long. They had 1 minute to say what they did. And that way, everybody heard the story at the same time. And this did 2 things. One thing it did was it saved time and productivity, because then I wasn't going around to 5 different people telling them how I went skiing or telling them how I went and had lefse. It also built some camaraderie. So it was a nice way to start the day, to start the work week, to get people off on a positive start. And let's face it, Mondays can be tough, right? So this way, the staff got together, they talked about the restaurants they went to, what they ate, how they went skiing, what they did. So they went around and they talked about that for a minute, what they did, what did you do over the weekend? You could also do something like Feedback Friday to build positive culture. And I know some libraries who have done this. And that is that they encourage their staff to send an email to one person. Maybe it's a staff member, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's someone out in the community. And they mention something positive. And it's truly a compliment. So it's not, hey, that was a great story time you did on Wednesday, but da 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 da, right? That was a great story time, and I know next time you're probably going to have more people. And next time, let me know what I can do to help. So it truly is a compliment, and it really is a nice way to wrap up the week. We also want to try to spend time with our colleagues if we can. So if lunch doesn't work, schedule a walking break. Pop into somebody's office, or is this a good time to chat? And that's a good opportunity to say, what are you working on? How did that program go? I would encourage people to try to do this once a week, if possible. Even if you can't, spend that time together, send a text. How did that program go last night? I know you were really worried about it. It went well, awesome. So try to spend that time with a colleague to build that positive work culture. Okay, so what else can we do to create a positive work culture? Does anyone care to share any ideas? I did see something in the chat about of a 10-4 rule, and someone said if you're within 10 feet of someone, make eye contact, and within 4 feet, say something. I love that. At a local grocery store, they had what was called a 10-tile rule, and if a store person was stocking the shelf or cleaning up tomato sauce in the aisle, whatever they were doing, if they saw somebody within 10 feet, they had to stop and say hello and say, are you finding everything okay? I love that. And then someone said, celebrate life events. Another comment is recognize effort. I love that as well. Thank coworkers for something specific that you appreciate they do. Christine says, we give birthday cards. That's fantastic. Ginger says, we have a fun committee that plans soup week. Christmas dinners, secret elf throughout the year. That's awesome. Awesome things that you are doing to create a positive work culture. Great ideas, and thank you for sharing those. So we only get one shot to make a first impression, right? Our library patrons are developing a first impression the minute, maybe even the second they approach our door, the 10 seconds it takes to return a book. So let's talk about how our environment can make or break us. Carl Sagan is an American astronomer, and he claims that if we want to show that we're extraordinary, we need to provide evidence. And I don't think this could be any more clear when it comes to our library environment, showing that evidence. So let's talk a little bit, number 13, about our library entrance. Is it safe? Is it clean? Is it cared for? I once was doing a library program at one of our member libraries, and this was several years ago. And I was waiting to let people in and waiting to greet people, and it was fall, in Wisconsin, and there were a lot of leaves in the entryway. There were a set of doors, and then a little entryway, and then another set of doors actually into the library. And there were a lot of leaves, and it was dirty, and it drove me crazy. And I know this library is busy and crazy, but I still couldn't stand it. So I ended up picking the leaves up myself and disposing of them, because I didn't want people walking in looking at that, because that is what people see. My dad, he's almost 80 years old, and he talks about this a lot. If he walks into a restaurant and he sees a mop and bucket, he does not want to eat there. That really bothers him. And I'm not saying we can't clean, we shouldn't be cleaning or making things clean, but I can understand where that would look unattractive to walk into a restaurant and be waiting to be seated and see a dirty mop and dirty water. Just not showing very cared for. So we want to make sure our entrances look nice and that they're also well lit and safe for people. Let's talk a bit about signage. We want to make sure it's consistent. So it follows maybe our font colors of our library. It has that consistent branding. So it's matching the font colors, it's matching our font. It has a unified look. Out of order signs. There's no reason that they can't be typed. We have computers and printers in our library, right? So maybe we have a file somewhere where we have out of order signs that are ready to go. So when we do have to post one, it's ready. My former gym also had something where if a machine wasn't working, like a treadmill, it would say the machine is out of order. We expect to have it in working order on this date, and they would list the date. And I liked that extra step because I felt like they were making an extra effort to let me know as a customer when this was going to be fixed. So maybe we add that. When will this be in order? Our signage should be neat. And again, we have computers, we have printers. There really isn't a reason for a handwritten sign. They all should be computer generated. We want to watch our language. We want to keep, we could do a whole webinar on marketing and signage. But these are just some quick tips. The language, we want to make sure it's positive. Some people say avoid using the word no. And then what about our punctuation? We could also do a whole webinar on exclamation points. How they're really not needed in any of our signage or in any of our marketing or on Facebook or on anything. Because as excited as we might feel about something, other people might not feel that way. And they really aren't needed in a lot of our writing and definitely in not a lot of our signage. What about our service desk, number 15? Is it clean or is it cluttered? When people approach the service desk, are your staff smiling? Are they ready? Do they see the faces of your staff, or do they see the side of that person's face or the top of their head? The only reason they should see the top of someone's head is if that person is bending down to pick something up off the floor. So your staff shouldn't be texting at the service desk. If you've had trouble with that, play this webinar for them because your staff should not be texting. They really, if they're doing some work on the computer, as they see somebody approach, they should turn and face them. And they should be smiling. They should have a positive look to them. So that service desk, all of that is part of that environment when people approach us. Okay, I love this photo. Aroma 360 is a Florida-based scent marketing and branding company, and they have clients like Ritz-Carlton, so pretty impressive. And when they did a study, they found that customers stay as much as, it's okay, Janet, she said I just used an exclamation point. They found that when they did a study, they found that customers stay as much as 44% longer in a business when it's surrounded by an attractive scent. So I know we can't always control this, right? Especially with our patrons. To help with some of this, Kurt Byler, he's the facilities manager at Brown County Library, a library near where I work. And he highly recommends these two products that are posted on your screen. And they are from Envirix, and they have a website where you should be able to order the products. And he said the 118, the green one that you see on the left-hand side, cleans 95% of the things in your library. That container costs about $45, but it creates hundreds of bottles of cleaner. He uses it on tile, on desks, sometimes on carpet, on windows. And by using that and the Mineral Shock, which is on the right-hand side, that is great, he said, for nasty bathroom smells. The only two things he keeps in his library, so he has a 9-branch library in their county system. The only two cleaning products he keeps on the shelves are these two, the Concentrate 118 and the Mineral Shock. So by having these, he's not having to keep 5, 10, 15 different products. He knows what he can grab. They are safe for handling. If you get them on your skin, it's not going to harm you, and they also smell nice. So this might be something, if you're looking for something different to use as far as cleaning products, this might be a way to help with scent. Let's talk about crowded stacks. So Kathy Dempsey, she's known as the marketing maven. She talks a lot about marketing and weeding. And I think this is true. You know, if we see jam-packed stuff in a store, it shows that maybe the store is not clean, or it gives the feeling that we don't care. And that might not be true. We do care, right? But we have to be aware of our perception. And again, that environmental perception. What are people seeing when they walk in? And it does, and as she says, it doesn't encourage her to stay longer and shop. So if you need to weed, that should be something that we're doing as often as we can. And finally, appearance. And I'm talking about our own appearance. And this does matter. Our impressions do matter, because we are a reflection of our library and that environment. So I'm not saying that you need to go out and buy a 3-piece suit or a suit and tie, but our clothes should fit. Our clothes should not look like we rolled out of bed. We shouldn't look hungover when we go to work. If you're sick, you need to stay home, right? I know for myself that I cannot drink the amount of wine that I could 20 years ago and look and feel functional at work. I know this. I know this about myself. When I'm giving a presentation, you know, at a conference, I'm not going to stand in front of people wearing sweatpants and a ratty t-shirt, right? Because my audience deserves better, right? You deserve better. Our patrons deserve better. Our colleagues deserve better. So we need to make a point to appear professional for our colleagues, for our community, for our customers every day. Every day we have to do our very best to appear that way. Okay, care to share? Does anyone have any ideas as far as what we could do in our libraries to improve our environment? Any other tips that someone would like to share about that? Or any other tips? Are there things that you do in your library to improve your environment at all? Yeah, a lot of these topics could be you're right, Donna. A lot of these could be a whole other webinar. You're absolutely right. Karen says, one of my staffer is great at decorating for the season. That's awesome. Yeah, when we're talking about dress, we want to make sure we're dressing appropriately. I mean, there's a time and a place to maybe dress a little more risque, and I would say at work that's not the place to do that. And you have to be mindful of your library's dress code as well. You know, some of you might allow open-toed shoes. Some of your libraries or your counties or cities might not. So I really encourage you, you know, to adhere to that. Those are not fun conversations that management wants to have with staff. Rotate the toys offered for children to play with in the library. I love that. That's awesome. And clean the kids' toys periodically. Yes. Yes. Awesome ideas. Thank you all for sharing those. We're going to move on. Now we're going to talk about some tech tools, and I'm going to cover my favorite tech tools right now in my life. These are the ones that I need. There are many. There are many, and I'm only going to share a few. So I'm really looking forward to you all sharing what you use as well. These are tools that make my life more productive. They are also tools we could potentially share with our patrons. Robin Sharma is one of the world's top leadership experts, and he has sold more than 15 million books across almost 100 nations, including the #1 bestseller, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And I think I like this quote because it talks about making improvement in areas that matter. And I think tech tools are a great way to do that. So number 19, Slack. I don't know if any of you, if you use Slack, let me know in the chat box. I love it. I work remotely for our library system. I work in Green Bay, and our office is in Wausau, which is 90 minutes away. We have another colleague who works the opposite direction in Eau Claire, which is another 90 minutes away. So I would die without Slack. It is a great instant messaging interactive tool. I've seen it this past year on top 10 tech tools. It cuts way back on email. Zach is saying I use Slack all the time. It's great. It is great. It's a free tool. I believe there's a paid version, and I think we have the free version. And up after 10,000 messages with someone, they start deleting. You can drag and drop PDFs or documents, or you can grab something on Jing and drag it in. So it's very nice to do quick shares as well. So Slack is a great tech tool. And again, it could cut back on email with your staff as well. Trello is a project management app. Does anyone out there use Trello? It's an app that you use on your phone, free, also a paid version, easy to use, very collaborative, helps you organize things in your personal and professional life. Marissa says, I use Trello all the time. That's great. Anything you want to organize fits on a board, and then you have lists, and then you can have cards, and you can share things, move things, delete things, move things around. So a tool that you might want to consider as far as project management. I love Screen-cast-o-matic. It's an excellent screencast tool, similar to Jing. I like this one a little bit better. You can host as many videos as you want at any length for $15 a year. Certain things on here you can do for free. I use this all the time for training purposes. So because I'm the education consultant and I do continuing ed and training, I create training videos twice a month using Screen-cast-o-matic. I can use my webcam so people can see my face. And I think the learning curve on this is very easy, and it is a fantastic tool. So if you're looking to do a short training video on a new process, or how to fill out, we have a new process on filling out your electronic time card or something new in the catalog. This could be a great tool for that. And Jing is a great tool as well. So I do use both, but for longer trainings, I do use Screen-cast-o-matic. It also has a captioning feature similar to YouTube. So the captions appear, you can fix the captions and then download the files as an MP4 and then upload it to YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you end up hosting your videos. So I really love this tool and use it a lot. I love Noisely more for myself and to keep me sane. Noisely is a site that has beautiful sounds that you can play in the background. It helps increase your mood, make you happier. So as you can see on the screen, you can play rain sounds, you can play lightning, you can play the wind. I use this several times a week, especially when I'm working with numbers or spreadsheets, and I just need something peaceful. And I don't want necessarily lyrics or music, but I need something in the background to keep me sane. So also free. So check out Noisely. Pixabay is a great site when you are looking for royalty-free images. They are beautiful as well. I like this better than Getty. Royalty-free. We really should not be using clip art anymore. Now that most of us, or almost all of us, have smartphones and we can snap photos, when we're talking about library marketing, real photos, real action shots or video is the best. Then I would go with stock photos. But I would encourage people to not use clip art at all. That was popular and acceptable 20 years ago, when we didn't have as much, when we didn't have smartphones, when we didn't have stock photos. Then it was more acceptable, but we really shouldn't be using it, at all now. CamScanner, I've used this a little bit and I've liked it. It's another app compatible with Apple and with Android. You can scan documents on your phone. The quality is very good. I could see this being effective in a small library where you need to scan something and send it quickly, or maybe a patron needs something scanned and sent quickly. You can add signatures. It does have a free feature, but then some pro features as well. So CamScanner might be something that you want to check out also. Any other things to share? As far as technology, what do you use? Linda says, love CamScanner. That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Linda. Sarah says the Rain app is great for the Rain app is great for background noise as well. Hat Note by Wikipedia is another good site for sound. Pexels is also similar to Pixabay. Pexels, P-E-X-E-L-S. And Zach says some scanning apps have the ability to turn text into sound. That's awesome. And Donna is asking, are there any other scanner type apps to try? I don't know of any others, but if someone else knows one, please feel free to type that in. Awesome. Thank you for sharing those. So our last big topic that we're going to talk about on our 30 ways to being extraordinary is self-care. And why am I including this? I think that healthy employees means happy employees. And when we have happy employees, that means a better library. That means a more extraordinary library. That means our best library. Brendan Burchard is the author of the Wall Street Journal bestseller, High Performance Habits. And he talks about that extraordinary things happen when we increase our focus and our drive and our attention that we bring to life, work, and relationships. So he's talking about when we focus on our self-care, great things can happen in our lives. So let's talk a little bit more about self-care. But before we do that, we're going to take a short quiz. So I'm going to post 15 questions on the screen. You're going to see them on 3 different slides. And you're just going to answer them true or false. So if you have a sheet of paper in front of you, get that handy, or you can use probably an app on your phone to track it, or the notes section on your phone. So have a sheet of paper and a pen handy. And when you see these questions, don't think about it too much, okay? Just think what comes to your mind first, true or false, your first instinct, okay? All right, so I'm going to show you the first set of questions. So here they are. Here are the first 4 questions. And again, you're just answering true or false. And while you're reading these and answering, I'm going to take a sip of water. And if you're done reading, you can take a sip of water as well, or a stretch break. Okay, a few more seconds and then I will move on. All right, next slide. Here are the next set of questions, the next 5. Remember, you're just answering true or false. Go with your first instinct. So true or false, I'm going to give it a few more seconds. All right, we're going to go to the next slide. And this is the last 6 questions. I hope these aren't depressing you all too much. I think 11 is true for a lot of us. And 15, I think, is true for a lot of us too. Okay, a few more seconds. We're going to finish this up. So you should have your trues and falses. So what you're going to do now is what I'd like you to do is count up your trues. Count your trues and give yourself a point for each true that you have. So go ahead and count them. You should have a number. You should have a point total. And this is what it's telling you if you scored. If you feel like sharing what your number was, please do so in the chat box, or this is something you can keep for yourself. Oh, I'm seeing some high numbers. 11, 14, 4. Four's pretty good. And I have to tell you, I'm not surprised. When a lot of people take this quiz, I think they are a little bit surprised. Teresa had a 3. That's very good. Very good. A 1. Okay, we need to learn from you. Okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my dad while you're still sharing your numbers. My dad was a dairy farmer in Wisconsin. He's still alive. He was a dairy farmer on a small farm for almost 60 years. On the left is an older picture. I think it has to be from about 1965. He's with my oldest sister on a tractor. On the right is the last day that he milked cows, and this was in November of 2015. A local station covered the story. Just at the end of an era, small family farm, almost 60 years, and he also dressed up. He wore a suit, coat, and tie for his cows. So they covered that, and it was really neat. After my dad retired, so again, my dad had farmed for almost 60 years. He retired at age 75. So at age 75 in 2016, he decided and approached me about finally going to Europe. And I like to travel as well. So you see some pictures. The first year we went to Bruges on the left-hand side. The upper right, we're in Germany. We did that in 2017. And then the other picture was a trip we did this past year in Prague. My dad's almost 79. He'll be 79 in February, and he's had he's been through the ringer a little bit the last couple of years. He's had 3 knee replacements because one of his knees was replaced twice. He's had prostate cancer, triple bypass, so he's slowing down a little bit. And on the last trip to me back in March, he said to me, Jamie, I see why you travel now. I understand why you are doing it while you can, while you have the energy, while your health is good. He decided that the last trip we took is his last. I'm not sure. We'll still see. So why am I telling you this? Why am I sharing my dad's story? I'm sharing it because, according to Forbes, in 2017, 47% of Americans did not take all of their vacation. 47%. And that is an improvement from previous years. That percentage used to be worse. I know a lot of people in our profession who bank vacation, who don't use it, or sometimes even lose it. Why? Why are we not taking our vacation or going somewhere or even taking a staycation? I tell people the story of my dad all the time. And I decided for myself, especially the last few years as he was going through some health things, that I'm not going to wait until I'm retired, until I'm 70 to take vacation or to travel. Because who knows? Who knows when I'm going to retire, right? Who knows what my life will be like or what my health will be like? Will I even be alive at age 75? I don't know. We just don't know these things. And we need breaks. We need to relax as part of our self-care, as part of being the best librarians that we can. Yes, Ginger, you're right. We need those mental health days. So take that vacation. And to help you take that vacation, I'm listing 2 apps on the screen, Kayak and Hopper. Those are great for checking out flight prices. You can even, they can predict when a flight might drop or when it might rise, or when you're encouraged to purchase a flight. So those are 2 great apps to keep in mind. So in 1990, Walter Mischel, he was a psychologist at Stanford, and he did what was called the Marshmallow Test. And 4-year-old children were given a choice. A marshmallow was placed in front of them and they were told they could eat the marshmallow now or they could wait 15 minutes, after which they would be given 2 marshmallows. So the kids were left alone in the room with the marshmallows. Some said yes and some said no for the whole 15 minutes. They monitored these kids over the years and they found that the ones who said no ended up receiving better grades. They were also less prone to impulsive behavior and more likely to be well adjusted. Okay, so is this study flawed? Likely. I mean, some kids might have been more hungry that day. Some kids might not like marshmallows, so they didn't eat the marshmallow. Who knows? I'm bringing this up because I want to mention, I think this is so important, that it's okay to say no. Because we have a tendency in libraries to say yes to everything. So it's okay to say no, both personally and professionally. It's okay to say no to a project presented by a coworker if it's not the right time or if it's not the right fit. It's okay to say, I'm unable to do this right now, but please approach me in 6 months or please approach me in a year. We still can achieve great things by saying no. And I think that's what the Marshmallow Test showed. We still can achieve great things when we say no. We don't have to always say yes to everything right away. And that goes along with considering our mental energy. This is really important if you are an introvert, and I know there's a lot of them in libraries. Ask yourself every week, what do I have going on this week? How many meetings do I have? If I have a meeting all day on Thursday, and then if I have meetings all day Thursday, and then a board meeting later that night, how is my mental energy going to be on Friday to do staff evaluations? Probably not the best, right? Maybe that could wait until the following week. Or if I have a week where I'm not at my desk much, I'm out of the office, I'm at meetings, I'm at a conference, I'm doing this, is the following week the best time to schedule more things? So we have to keep some of that mental energy in the tank. And that goes along with that saying no too. And I know as librarians, we tend to a lot of times bite off more than we can chew. And then we say to ourselves, why did I do that? So really think about your mental energy. That also goes along with social media. I just watched a show on Netflix the other night called An American Meme. If you haven't watched it, it's fascinating and sad in a way. We know that technology is a wonderful tool, right? We know that we can do amazing things. It becomes bad when we let it control us. We know there are studies linking depression and Facebook, or depression and Instagram with teens. And I think it's the same for adults. You know, a like or a comment or a follow is like dopamine. You know, it's that validation. So do what you need to do. Maybe you need to give yourself a social media break for a week or a month, or you only allow yourself 15 minutes a day. There was an article that came out in September by Laura Solomon of Oakland, out of Ohio. And Laura's fantastic. And she talked about how in 2018, for the first year in many, social media is actually on the decline. And stress was cited as a big reason. So people are finding social media and technology more stressful than helpful in a lot of ways. So work mode is a great tool for Chrome on ways you can block social media if you need to. Lifehacker is another one of those tools. So use those breaks when you need to. Would it be possible, I know this isn't possible for all of you, is it possible to take 1 day per month and work off site, or to not check email? Try to have these days for your big projects. I have a friend at a library who does this and gets so much done. You also might find if you are working off site, your staff is able to problem solve better than you think they did, given the opportunity. Number 30, almost there. When we are gone at a conference or gone for the day, it takes us a half a work day to read and process 100 emails. A half a day to process 100 emails. Email is not used for immediate action, right? Hey, the fire alarm is going off, right? It's not used for that, but it's still a big tool. So is there a way we can consolidate it or turn it off, because it can be such a suck for such a time suck, you know. I use Boomerang for Gmail. Great tool. It allows you to send messages later. You can boomerang messages to come back to you, or I can even turn off email for a certain amount of time. Monday Mentions is a tool on your right-hand side of the screen that I created because I work for a library consortium and my customers are librarians and not patrons. And we're constantly pushing out information on here's an upcoming webinar, here's a grant, here's a this, here's a that. We were sending out too many emails and they were like, stop. So we created Monday Mentions, and this is just a text document. It's emailed every Monday at noon. With Boomerang, I can schedule it. So I probably will produce one next Monday on Christmas Eve. I will schedule it ahead of time on Friday, so it will still go out on Monday. And it's just short text that leads to more information. And we have found that it saves us from sending our librarians 10 to 15 emails per week with information that's important, but maybe things they don't have to have 10 separate emails for. So think about consolidating your email or turning it off if you can. If you have anything to share about self-care, please type it in the chat box. I'm going to keep going so we wrap up on time. But I think we can all agree that self-care is so important, and I am seeing more topics on it this year. I am hearing more librarians speak about it than I ever have before in my years of working in libraries. Okay, so we're about to wrap up and we're almost out of time. These are the things that we talked about today. These were the main things that we talked about to making our library extraordinary. I have one more. As a small library, and again, I will argue as any library, you have the power not only to collaborate, but innovate in your community. This picture is a picture of a gazebo being built in the town of Owen. Owen is a small town in Wisconsin. They partnered with their local police force and their community to build a gazebo in the park across the library where the Wi-Fi reaches, because they were having issues with library users wanting to use the Wi-Fi when the library was not open. The gazebo has benches, it has outlets, it's well lit, and the Wi-Fi reaches. So they saw something that was needed in their community and collaborated and also were innovative. Jessamine West spoke at our state conference last year, and she said, you don't always have to collaborate and wait for something else. We can innovate. As libraries, we can take the lead. We can be innovative just as much as we are encouraged to collaborate. So let's circle back to this question. We talked about this at the very beginning. What does it mean to have an extraordinary library? Do you feel what you wrote down or what you put in the chat box is the same? Do you have some additional ideas of what it means to be extraordinary? And I know your time is valuable. You have been sitting and listening and exchanging ideas for the last hour. So I want you to go away with some ideas. And I want you to think about and even write down in the next 10, 15 seconds, what are two things that you can do today? What are two things that you can do today to make your library the best it can be? Maybe they are things for your staff. Maybe they are things personally for yourself that are going to make your library the best it can, to make it extraordinary. What are things X, Y, Z that you can do now and carry into the new year? And this is very fitting since we are almost at the end of 2018 and starting a new year. As Edmund Hillary says, people do not decide to become extraordinary, they decide to accomplish extraordinary things. He's a mountaineer from New Zealand, and he became the first person to reach the summit of Mount Everest. Remember what I stated at the beginning, that we decide what extraordinary means. So just by you taking the time for yourself today, professionally and personally, and the sharing that you're doing, you've all been so awesome in sharing ideas in the chat box today. You are already taking steps to make your library the best it can be. And I encourage you to keep doing that great work throughout the end of the year and throughout next year as well. I want to thank you for listening to me today, for sharing your awesome ideas. I want to thank Paula for inviting me to speak with all of you. I wish all of you nothing but the best for your holidays and the best of 2019. And I admire what all of you are doing. I love working in consulting with public librarians. It is so rewarding, and they amaze me every day. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting the good fight.
Yes, thank you so much, Jamie. You have given us lots of inspiration on how to become extraordinary today. So again, I will send out an email to everybody in the hopefully first 2 weeks of January, and please remind me if you were not able to download your LEU certificate, I will make one for you and send it to you. So I'll stay on for a little bit longer. Again, thank you, Jamie, and thank you, everybody. You guys have a wonderful holiday and Happy New Year.